PVZ of the day. In the top right side, we're looking at the main base of our American Protoss hero. Still representing Ting, it is Neeb.
And over here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the red Zerg player representing Team Bravestar. She is Scarlett. Kev, I don't know if you saw in the lobby, says she doesn't like the color red, which blew my mind. I would think like she would love the color red. That's basically what her name means.
Didn't really put much thought into it, but yes, I did see the chat. And then she made fun of my name in the way it was written. And I was like, hey, why am I getting involved in this whole color discussion? But it's all good. Neeb sent out one of his very first probes to the other side of the map. And that's obviously bodes well for him, as he now forces Scarlett to take her expand at the point where you would normally take your third. Scarlett does take the gas a little bit quicker than you would normally take it, but a lot of Zerg players like to do this. It's just a couple of seconds, but it does really help out in keeping your drone safe against the first adepts that can make their way to the other side of the map.
Yeah, nice little bit of the usual PVZ mind games and everything, but both these players do, again, like they've played against each other so many times, not just like in NA events, but even other events. They seem to always hit each other somehow. They've played over 80 games or 190 games almost. So it's a lot of tournament games. They know each other very well. They used to live together in Korea in like the same team house and talk with each other a lot. So they're good friends, and it's always a bit of a treat. And I feel like there's also like, I don't know if you want to call it a curse or a blessing. I consider it a blessing, Kev, but these two, they seem incapable of playing a best of 5 without at least one of the games going 40 minutes. Like it always happens.
Yep, over this year of all the events we had with the DreamHack SC2 Masters, we had a couple of epic games that came down to the maxed out armies, the spore crawlers against the carriers. I won't be against it, because I feel like we had a couple of decently long games in the TVZs, but nothing that really went down to the wire, right? Like ultimate armies, low work accounts. I'm pretty sure that NA can give us something like that. And if it doesn't happen in this one, maybe a Scarlett versus Australia super long game, or a Neeb versus Australia, because they too have played some epically long PvPs against each other. I don't know, man. When it's NA time, I just want to buckle up and enjoy the ride and get ready to see some fun StarCraft.
Well, I'm totally with you, Kevin. There's like, there's definitely matches where you feel like you have a dog in the fight. You're like, oh yeah, I really want the game or the series to go a specific way. And when I get to this side, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just here as a witness. I'm here as a witness for the greatness that is going to happen.
Pretty much spot on. So it's going to be a Stargate opening in the first game for Neeb. Obviously, Stargates is something that's very popular in this matchup, and it makes sense because Scarlett does have her very aggressive openings that she likes to throw out in best of 5s. Neeb even opening up with the Void Ray. I don't think he's going to go for some crazy mass Void Ray gameplay. That would just be a bit too crazy. Probably just a safety Void Ray, take care of the first Overlord. And then I'm very curious about the follow-up, because there are some builds out there where it's like you make one Stargate, you make it look like it's a very macro-oriented opening. Instead, it's a Twilight Council and 5 more gateways going down. And all of a sudden, 17 Adept Shade to the other side of the map. So we'll see if Neeb goes down that road or not.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be an Oracle follow-up behind this for Neeb, and actually gets a pretty big supply block there for a moment against Scarlett, who does start up a couple more Overlords afterwards, going to get a few more drones out as well, but yeah, we're going to end up seeing a pretty normal-looking opening after the follow-up from that Void Ray, like you were saying, even a third base being going to be established over here for Neeb, so pretty passive, safe openings, and we're not seeing like a super fast Twilight Council or anything immediately being added on just yet, but we'll keep an eye out for that. Whether it's going to be that or like a Robo coming out for Neeb next.
Yeah, it could definitely just be like Robo, Twilight, and even a Forge as well, because this game, I don't think Neeb is up to anything super special or out of the ordinary. It will be fun to see if he keeps going Stargate, if it's always this order of units, right? If it's Void Ray, Oracle, or if we're going to see Oracles first sometimes. Scarlett misclicking there, killing one of her own creep tumors almost.
Saved. Well, yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Something that we'll definitely be keeping an eye on is how Neeb uses that Stargate, because I know there have been a few games of those PVZs, especially versus Scarlett, he has liked to go into things like the double Stargate or the triple Stargate follow-up, going into fast carriers and stuff. So I think it's something that Scarlett is absolutely going to have to respect the potential for.
Yeah, I don't hate that stuff on Pillars of Gold as we see these two Adepts finish up their shades. At the same time, I think Neeb is going to try to get lucky with the Oracle Void Ray combo. No, it's double Oracle in the main base, but Scarlett reacting pretty quickly. Still ends up losing 4 drones there, but since the 2 Adepts went down as well, I honestly think all of this is quite even.
Yeah, all in all, just kind of like minor pokes and prods from either side, but no massive damage happening on either end. And we get to see like just a cool setup for a nice simple macro game for both players. Neither one of them even taking like the forward third bases or anything. So it is actually just a nice passive setup. And Scarlett, I'd say the biggest thing is that she is kind of getting her creep spread going as she does. And I like that Neeb trying to patrol around with these oracles, maybe potentially going to find like an active creep tumor here or there.
Yep. Charge on the way for Neeb. That's obviously very standard, expecting the Templar Archives to go down as well, as we see Neeb taking his Assimilators at the 5th and 6th gas, and there is our first infestation pit of the series. Scarlett already has her Roach Warren, so I think there's a very good chance we're going to see some... Whoa, Oracle takes a lot of damage, does survive. Yeah, I guess we're going to see this a couple of times in this best of 5. Good old Roaches and Swarm Host.
Yeah, and you know, it has been like apparently the new age thing where you get up the Swarmos, you don't really worry about the Nidus or immediately, you actually just walk the Swarmos across the map, and if you want to, you after the first wave or two, you can get up a Nidus Swarm or something for later, but scouting out that infestation pit is going to be pretty important there for Neeb. Immediately has a Templar Archives being added on with his big gateway flood. I think he's going to be suspecting, yep, there's a pretty obvious pathway for those Swarmos to try and hit the main.
You know what I love when I watch these fantastic Protosses in these tournaments is they're so good in like kind of forcing the fight far away from the natural or their third or even their main, and then kind of forcing the Zerg to activate their Locust, and then they just run away immediately because they know that that's not a fight they should be taking. So they're really good in making sure that the Locusts kind of expire rather quickly before they can really get all their damage output out. Now Scarlett is even bringing her Queens to the other side of the map. With these kinds of games, I never really want to be like, oh, this isn't all in, because swarm mode games can just get very weird, right? Where it's like, okay, they did a lot of damage almost, but now you gotta wait until they can fire again. But it is safe to say that Scarlett is pretty committed with her first attack here.
Yeah, the first wave of Locusts are so important in these kind of things. It's about building up a bit of that momentum in a sense. And we end up seeing the Force Fields actually delaying a lot of the Lings and Roaches from actually joining in with the Locust for a bit. The Archon's going to add in so much extra DPS. Neeb poach forward with one of those War Prisms as we see, trying to get a little bit done over there. And that Stasis Trap also locking down a handful of the DPS over here. Neeb finding the opportunity to actually dive in. Going to be able to find both of the Queens. And with the Queens gone, the Oracles get free reign on all the remaining units.
Yep, this is starting to look pretty good as Neeb also set up a Zealot run by via the bottom right side. Found a couple of drones already. The War Prism does go down though, and that's a big loss because we know how important those prisms are to make sure that the Zerg can just rally all their units to the other side of the map. But I often say that the first wave of Locusts is the scariest, right? Because that's where you feel you don't have many Archons, you don't have many Immortals. I actually think that Neeb weathered the storm without too many issues, but round 2 is going to show up before Storm is done. And without the Prism, I mean, Scarlett can just freely rally everything that she has to the other side of the map. You do need some anti-air to deal with this Void Ray, though.
Yeah, and remember, a lot of the Queens had already died, so that's 2 Swarm Hosts that have already gone down. A third Swarm Host taking a lot of damage over here from that moving shot of the Void Ray. That's a third Swarm Host. There's only 7 actually left, and finally a Spore Crawler's over here. I don't even know where the Queens are, Kev. They're actually all dead.
Scarlett has 0 Queens out on the map because she brought a couple of Queens to the other side of the map, which indeed went down when the army disengaged, and the remaining Queens died at home to the Zealot counterattack via the bottom right and the Warp Prism plate. Now don't lose that Void Ray, because that Void Ray can actually really come in handy defensively.
Absolutely. And I mean, it is going to start making its retreat back across the map. Could even find an Overlord or 2 on the way, but you saw all those Roaches that were on the right-hand side trying to break through this. This is a tough army to break through, and Kev, as soon as Storm finishes, the Roaches and the Swarmos are both going to struggle a lot more against this army composition.
Yeah, besides losing the War Prism, which I don't think was necessary, Neeb is actually playing a fantastic game, and he really doesn't seem to be in that much trouble. Cancels a couple of those Ravages as well on the right side. And even though Scarlett, her supply still looks alright, Hive Tech is finishing up, so maybe we'll see a couple Vipers, right? Try to abduct some of those power units of Protoss. But I think it's safe to say that Scarlett was definitely hoping for more success than she found so far.
Yeah, and we're at a situation where with not only Storm done, Kev, but there's 10 High Templar building up energy for Storms. And they're even spread out across the potential bases here. Neeb has so many storms to play around with. He can use them very, very liberally on these Locust Wave. Now, 1 or 2 of the Immortals already going down. Corrosive Battles actually land on a couple of the High Templars as well. Archon's also being forced to be morphed in, but the charge loss forcing these Ravagers back. It looks like Neeb is going to feel comfortable enough to continue pushing forward on to creep as well. No, he's going to back off.
Yeah, what I do like about posturing your army there, if there was an observer with the army, is there? Yeah, there's one. Is that you can once again force the Swarmos to activate their Locust from so far away, and then you can just run back to your static defenses, and I think it's all of a sudden quite alright. Scarlett sets up a little counter-attack with Zerglings and Roaches, and actually gets the battery, forces a couple of the Archons to morph into Archon, or forcing a couple of the High Templars to morph into Archons as well. This one is going to be a little bit tricky, but that Archon, even though it goes down, it soaked up all the Swarmos and made it very easy for Neeb to land a perfect storm on those Locusts. And well, that's another wave down the drain.
Yeah, and Neeb being able to take these fights with effectively half of his army, maybe a little bit more than half of his army at this location, because he's got his other set of the army on the left-hand side protecting that other base, is really, really solid, because now he's also making that transition up to the double Stargates being added on. The Fleet Beacon just finished up. He is getting ready for the big carrier transition, and he's got all the tech he needs for it.
Nice catch there by Scarlett, as one of the Corrosive Battles did connect with that Observer.
Whoa,
now gets a High Templar. All right, that's another very juicy catch. But yeah, Neeb is already thinking of the next stage of this game, while Scarlett is like, no, Roach Ravager Swarmos, it's still happening. We're going to send more Locusts forward. I just don't feel that Scarlett is really finding the critical damage that she's looking for, because you really want to start breaking bases here, right? Take out all the static defenses, pick off those key units. Like the random Archon here and there is not enough. Once again, if Neeb just still had that Prism, I think this game would be like 5 times better than it already is.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at things at the end of the day, yes, it's a Hydra Den being added on, but it's effectively an army of Ravagers, Roaches, and Swarm Hosts against an army of 8 Immortals, a bunch of High Templars, a tech transition to carriers with 3 being added on. Yeah. This is not the army for Scarlett that scales well. She's really relying on being able to take efficient trades and using that bank she's been building up to deal with the transition point, but she has to take a good enough fight, but she has time to use the bank.
Yep. Well, the Corrosive Battles are connecting with a couple of nice units. As now the Oracle goes down, one Archon goes down there as well, the tail end of this fight. But you're right. It looks promising. It's like, wow, Scarlett is so rich. But what are you going to do with 6k minerals against carriers? Like, Queens don't beat carriers. They beat a lot of things, Spear Dragon, but they don't beat carriers. So Scarlett is going to be forced to build a Spire and maybe get some Vipers or then all the Hydras. I don't know how we're going to kill the carriers, but something needs to be done, because even if you have 15k minerals, those carriers won't go away.
All right, Kev. Well, the BattleNet forums lied to me. I'll take your word for it on that one. Well, we got a lot of the Locusts getting taken out by these storms, and that's going to be a really nice start over here for Neeb. But finally losing some of these shield batteries over here. Scarlett's actually doing a bit of damage to the defense of this base. A Zealot run by manages to find 10 drones on this side of the map. Scarlett down to 63 workers, and Kev, she actually just replaced most of that supply with just more Roaches. So a little bit worried for Scarlett now. I think this is starting to hit that point where Neeb is going to feel comfortable moving out.
Yep, now we have 2 Lurkadens going up as well, right next to each other. Maybe Scarlett wants to get both upgrades at once because he is that rich. It's just that even Lurkers don't shoot up. Now, maybe the combo of Lurkers and Spore Crawlers can keep Scarlett safe, because that is one thing you can obviously do with all those minerals. Just make extra drones, then build a bunch of Spore Crawlers, and then try to keep the carriers at bay. It just feels that Scarlett, her bases are very exposed. The Zealot run-bys are often finding a lot of success, maybe not this one. It's going to be very, very hard for Scarlett to buy the time that she needs for herself to get the army out that Zerg dreams are made of.
Carriers have been absolutely revealed at this point, and the Locust Waves on the right-hand side get dealt with. This is maybe gonna be that moment with +1 air weapons finishing up, +3 ground weapons getting close to finishing. Neeb adding on that War Prism. I think the War Prism is maybe the only thing preventing him from just moving out right now and trying to get something done, at least cleaning up some of the creep spread, but Vipers are being added on here. Scarlett also adding on a lot of Hydras. 15 Hydras being added right now.
Yeah, that's actually kind of cool, because the combo of all these Hydras and then the 3 Vipers, if you land 1 or 2 Abducts, then I actually kind of believe, because Scarlett has been on top of her missile upgrades. +3 already means that these Interceptors are going to get picked off rather easily. It's still a very scary Protoss army, and then obviously Storm is going to push the Hydras away. Lurkers are morphing. Can Neeb see that? Neeb kind of sees the Lurkers morph. Does he feel like he has got enough time to go for it? Seems like the answer is yes. Neeb finds all these Hydras that morph into Lurkers, and that means that at this point it's going to be very difficult. Can we get some abducts for you, Dragon?
We're going to end up seeing one or two of the carriers getting moved into that army of the Hydras. One carrier goes down, another abduct, a second carrier goes down. At the same time, there is a Zealot run by the left-hand side. That's actually ravaged one of those bases. 19 workers killed on top of the workers killed at this bottom center base, but the Warp Prism warps in a few more units. Neeb is looking for a kill move over here. The Vipers still need to get energy, and the carriers are closing in on the Vipers, even getting some feedbacks off. One abduct happens, but I'm not sure that's enough for Scarlett.
I just don't think the Hydra count is high enough. There is not enough anti-air on the side of Scarlett. The Hydras are kind of just forced to run away all the time. We've got 22 Hydras on the way now. Like, that'd be fantastic if all of them would be in one place, but they will come in from multiple angles. They'll be not in the same spot as the Vipers, as they are obviously pushed all the way to the left side. And even though Scarlett is finding a little bit of damage with her Squarmos on the other side of the map, I don't think it really makes up for the amount of damage that she's taking at home.
Yeah, well, the Hydras are actually getting a bit of a pincer move over here. Maybe Blinding Cloud's also coming down on that north side of the army, but that's not going to be enough. Scarlett taps out, and Neeb takes the first game.
Now that's gonna sting a little bit for Scarlett, especially because every pro gamer will hate to wave the white flag when you've got 4,000 minerals in the bank, right? Imagine if that was spent a little bit better, and we did have a whole bunch of spore crawlers and maybe some spine crawlers to help out against the Zealot run-bys. There is a chance that that game goes on, and we do know that Scarlett is excellent with that combo of spore crawlers and Vipers, and then maybe we could see a proper late game. But I just think the early game didn't really work out. The first push, it was kind of disorganized. The Queens were left behind. The moment the Queen was left behind, there was zero anti-air, so the Void Ray is like, well, cool. Now we start killing Swarmos and Ravages, and it kind of all fell downhill from there. Even though Scarlett was like always maxed out, always had money in the bank, it just didn't really feel like there was a way to win that game.
No, I'm definitely with you. It felt like Scarlett was really struggling to find a way to bounce back from all of that. And I don't know, maybe if you can find a way, like Microbial Shroud or something, but like it's so tough to actually just get enough Hydras to actually make that kind of difference against that carrier army. If you don't break earlier on, even though the game goes so much later on, or just it kind of all ties back to that earlier set of fights with the Swarm host not really being able to break through. Like that is where you have to get something done, or the Protoss player just starts building up that big ball of High Templars, Archons, Immortals, and Carriers.
Yep. Compliments to Neeb though. I feel that Neeb played an almost close to perfect game. This is obviously something he was expecting going into this series. He's like, all right, I know that Scarlett loves this build. No, I can't mess up. And I think other than the Warp Prism loss, that was an excellent game by Neeb. He always had units in the right place. He put quite some pressure on the Swarmos and realized when he shouldn't take the fights. Looked very safe and sound at home. Very impressive, and I think that Scarlett is going to have to bring something else to this best of 5 if she wants to walk away as the winner here.
Yeah, and that is something nice about Scarlett, is that she's not a one-trick pony. She absolutely has a lot of different ideas of how to play the game and everything, and she has different cheeses, she has all-ins, and she's absolutely going to be able to bring something else to the table if she feels like that defense was too solid to break through it. Honestly, Kev, I'm with you. I don't actually want to see, at least not in the subsequent game, not like immediately afterwards, go for that same Swarm host play, because Neeb just looked too damn good up against it.
Death Aura is a map where Scarlett has shown us a lot of Spire play throughout the entire season. She likes the Spire. Even if Protoss does open up with the Stargate and then transitions into a ground army, Scarlett doesn't mind squeezing in a Spire there. Maybe try to keep it hidden on some Overlords to just build in a random place. Because often like 2 or 3 Phoenixes. I like what Lambo said in one of the interviews when we had him on. It's not that Protoss players suck in microing their Phoenixes all of a sudden. It's just that they make sure that Protoss is forced to look elsewhere because they attack with Roaches, Lings, Ravages, Banelings. And while that's happening, that's when you turn around with the Mutas. And if you can keep that Phoenix count very low, even if they have a Stargate, Muta play can absolutely work.
Yeah, to put that into context, guys, and a lot of people are like, oh, Phoenix counters Mutas so hard. It's like, okay, until you get the range upgrade for Phoenix, you have a 1 range up like advantage over your opponent. So you have to micro that perfectly. And even if you want to say like go for the Fleet Beacon, it's 300 minerals, 200 gas. But Kev, I see, in fact, Down over here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, the blue Protoss player already sending out that first probe to go for that hatch block. It is Ting's Neeb.
And in the top left side, we're looking at the main base of the reigning champ of North America. It is Scarlett.
I got excited for a moment, Kev, because I saw 2 probes hanging out from Neeb, and I'm like, is he doing it? This is Death Aura. This is a great cannon map. No. Goes to the pylon on the low ground, gets up that gateway.
I think he did the same thing. And when you got excited, I was like, oh, he thinks he's going to get it right. And I was like, well, this is a decent map maybe to do so. But I figured that Neeb was actually just going to try to go for the hatch block once again. I'm surprised that Neeb is able to get away with it twice. Obviously, you have to kind of anticipate this as a Zerg player, and then you have to take your hatchery very early. Then it's possible, and then I think it's immediately very good. Because as a Protoss sending out basically 2 probes to the low ground and 1 probe to the other side of the map immediately, it does have a pretty severe impact on your economy. But I think if you can get away with it, if you get the guaranteed block on the hatchery, this is always a good investment.
Yeah, and Neeb also getting extra value out of that probe. For those who are wondering, it's a small thing that Protoss player, or just general pro players like to do. Where you see every single time he's mining from these minerals, he bounces the drones around so Scarlett doesn't get super effective mining quite as well. Kind of throws off the minor details of the build and everything. Not anything massive, but it's always just a nice hindrance to your opponent.
Yeah, it's really fun. So, I play against the good players every now and then, and they keep doing it. And I'm just looking at it. I'm like, this seems exhausting. Like, I know it's worth it. But I'm like, I hope that you're messing up at home, because you're trying this hard to occupy my mineral patches. I really hope you're forgetting a pylon or an overlord or anything. Well, overlord's not too often, but maybe a supply depot. Because it's so annoying to see that worker just mine off the patch, and then stop, then go to a different patch, and then stop. It's like, oh, come on. Give me a break.
Yeah, it is honestly one of my favorite things to see it in players below like mid GM, because I'm like, I know that you're not doing your build back at home. This is great to watch, but Neeb definitely going to be on top of it. Adds on that Stargate, adds on a second Adept that should plug up that hole left by the first Adept moving out across the map. And Neeb, honestly, usually pretty good about keeping that first Adept alive for the most part. He doesn't usually end up sacrificing it too, uselessly. But he's just going to confirm everything looks okay in the main base. Sees there's only 1 drone on gas.
Yeah, this scout, it may seem meaningless, right? And pointless. Like, we're looking at this like, oh, well, everything is normal. What does this Adept do? But not sending this Adept to the other side of the map could be a disaster. Because Scarlett could have still only been on 2 hatcheries, could have still been mining gas, could have been a roachling all-in. And we've seen it a couple of times already in this season. You need to scout those builds, because if you don't, you just straight up die. You don't have enough defenses at home. If you do scout it and it's happening, then it's actually a very easy defense. So it may seem like it's irrelevant, but it is very important what Neeb is doing.
Yeah, I definitely trust your word. As owner of the Roddy Wall, who has been Bane busted many a time, I know that you know the pain of a Zerg suddenly all-inning you when you don't expect it.
Yeah, we've seen it actually in DreamHack Europe as well. Denver did it against Skillis on this map. So. And it worked because Skillis didn't see it until it was on his front door. Then it's too late.
Well, nice job by Neeb being able to get all the basic scouting and stuff that he needs out. But what is this, Kev? I see a second Stargate being added on.
Well, you already said it in the previous game, right? There's a good chance we'll see Neeb go for some of that mass air. And it seems that game 2 is the map he decides to do so. And it's kind of fun as well, because it's the same opening when it comes to Void Ray Oracle. So Scarlett right now, you may not necessarily be immediately thinking about Stargates. The moment the first Phoenixes show up, there's a good chance that he's like, all right, I know that this is double Stargate, but it can be tricky, especially if you misread into this. Maybe if you make a couple of safety units too many early on. We'll see when Scarlett realizes what's up and how she decides to tackle it.
Yeah, Stasis Trap, gonna be able to catch maybe 1 or 2 drones. No, she doesn't catch any, just catches a single Zergling, so great pull over there from Scarlett. Neeb's still gonna find an opportunity to snag a single drone kill over there. Spots out the space for the Roachborn, which is in a very interestingly hidden off area. But it's just gonna be about all of that Phoenix production now for Neeb, and doesn't really have to worry about this getting scouted anytime soon. That's like the nice advantage of the current Void Ray meta, where the Void Ray actually just is both the safety precaution and also goes and picks off all those overlords. Whereas I feel like in the past it would be like, you make the first Phoenix, and now the Zerg player's like, okay, maybe Phoenix?
Exactly. And the Void Ray seems a little more normal, especially if you also use the Void Ray in some of your ground-based games. So all of this makes sense. Scarlett drops this fire.
Oh no!
That, I mean, it's bad, but it can also work out because Roach Corruptor is actually not that bad against what Neeb is doing at this point. Now, it's obviously very important that Scarlett realizes there are a whole bunch of Phoenixes being produced before the Mutas show up, because if you make Mutas into double Stargate, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Okay, well, the Phoenix are going to reveal themselves well before that Spire finishes on up. And I think, did they just barely evade the first Overlord or something? Because 6 Roaches being added on right now, probably not exactly what Scarlett needs at this moment, but she definitely knows about it now. And Hydroden being added on.
Picture perfect timing here by Neeb as he's able to pick up the drone as well that was supposed to morph into the hatchery and get Scarlett up to 4 bases. Quite a few Overlords are exposed, and looking at where these Overlords were, I have the feeling that Scarlett definitely did not expect this. And this is a really solid start, I think, already for Neeb.
Yeah, gonna have plenty of space as well to get that wall up over by the 3rd base. Oh, does he notice the drone? No, busy elsewhere with some of the macro. Doesn't pick up that drone and had the 4th for a bit, but...
that's a lot of Overlords, Ravi. Like, another Overlord goes down here. There was one more on the left that Neeb didn't see, but this is really starting to add up.
Yeah, I mean, that's what now, 5 Overlords killed off. Scarlett has the laser Overlord unsupply block, but a bunch more Overlords actually get found. So if Neeb decides that his drones are not enough, he can actually snag at least 1 or 2 more Overlords. No, backs up into all the many queens coming on out, and the Corruptors are on their way.
Look at the production tab. 9 gateways. Like, that's a lot of gates. We go from 1 to 9 or to 10 gateways. 1 plus 9 is 7, brother. This can actually work out so well because now Scarlett is investing in her Corruptus, even getting +1 flyer attacks, thinking this could be a mass air game, or at least taking the Phoenixes very seriously. While we already know that the real danger is probably on the ground. Because 10 gateways +1, charge, Templar Archives, and a Wild Prism, that could hit very hard.
Corruptors have been revealed over here. They managed to snag 1 of the Phoenix, and Scarlett is adding on a lot more Roaches, so she is at least going to have a ground force. But Kev, those are the first 5 Roaches. There's actually nothing else besides 12 Lings on the ground. And I think Scarlett's going to see that Archon's coming forward, and that might start to be a bit of a reveal. Like, wait a second. Huh, you know, you actually have a lot of ground tech right now. Oh, the Prism!
What? Okay, I would have definitely prioritized the Prism there. I think that's a more important pickup than a couple of these Phoenixes. And the Void Ray, that's in range of a shield battery. It does go down. Now, these Corruptors can definitely wreak havoc in the main base. They can maybe kill a Nexus. But can Roaches really save Scarlett at home? I think we need at least a couple of Ravages in the mix as well, because pure Roach, maybe with the best micro ever, but this is going to be very difficult. Why did Scarlett not kill that Prism Fear Dragon?
Oh, that's definitely going to come back to bite her in the butt. Well, Zealot's run by on the top right-hand side does not go super well. Remember, Neeb also just actually lost one of those Nexus, so he absolutely has to win the fight over on this side of the map. He should have what he needs to. Force Field's going down to try and lock out these Roaches while he snipes off that hatchery. Broodling's making things a little bit awkward, so I think Neeb wants to back off for a bit, but the Corruptors are going to be able to Caustic Spray down another one of these bases. And Neeb, where is the Warp Prism?
Well, he's got 2 Warp Prisms, actually. Neeb is going to recall, so he doesn't want to lose another base. I mean, 3 base against 3 base is still pretty good, but can the Corruptors get this Nexus? The answer is probably yes. The Archons were stuck, by the way, so now Neeb unpowers his own Robo as well. Second Nexus goes down, and all of this actually went quite all right for Scarlett. Even though I think it's a bit deceiving because her army isn't that great, but hey, maybe Scarlett can find even more damage, and then it's definitely very playable.
Yeah, she's going to be able to snipe off a couple of the Zealots over here, zoning out these Archons. Remember, with all of these units over here, the Corruptors are still sitting by that other base. Even if these Roaches don't find this Nexus, and they're already wreaking havoc, like you said, Corruptors are going to be able to Caustic Spray down that Nexus that has literally 0 defenses at it right now.
And actually, all these Roaches are somewhat difficult to deal with because we didn't have a single Immortal. Now there is finally an Immortal showing up. I don't know if this Nexus is going to go down, though. There could be... Oh, Overcharge was already used on the right side. So there is a good chance Scarlett is going to get this. And the Roaches and Ravages still doing quite all right on the right as well. It's very difficult to fight these Roaches, I guess, if you don't have multiple Immortals in your army.
Corruptor count is definitely reduced by those Phoenix, but having sniped off multiple Nexus at this point, Neeb is barely actually mining from this base right now because he's so busy actually just trying to keep his probes alive and zoning out this Roach army. The Nexus now out of shields. It's getting focused right down by a lot of Scarlett's units. The Corruptor's already taking care of the Phoenix, and Scarlett breaks through. GG, tied up series 1-1.
10 minutes and 30 seconds, and Scarlett managed to kill 4 Nexus. 4! You don't see that very often.
Oh, that's definitely not bad. I'd say that she got some value out of this Corruptors, Kev. Well, guys, we're going to go to a short break before we go back into the series that is now tied up 1-1. Tied up series 1-1 over here to decide who is going to go on to the grand finals to face off versus Australia. Will it be the Queen of Blades, Neeb, Scarlett, or will it be the King of Kespa, Neeb?
I was like, wow, that's a new nickname for Neeb. I mean, I guess yeah, we did see the Phoenixes go to town on those queens, so maybe. Yeah, let's get into game 3. It's a pretty funny series so far. I think in the second game, there was way more potential for Neeb than when he got out of his attack in the end. He had 2 prisms, so even if that first prism would have died, that was not the end of the world. And then that prism was just kind of hovering in dead airspace, not doing anything. Well, you know, I'm a Protoss player, Ravi, but let me just tell you, if there are like 5 fights happening at once, in general, that's better for the Protoss than it is for a Terran or a Zerg, because Zealots are great even without looking at them. You wipe them in, you send them on a mission, and they'll get the job done. So I feel that Neeb should have been able to get a little more advantage out of all that chaos than Scarlett was, but in the end, we're here. It's all tied up.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we get started as we get to see down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, the red Zerg player, the Queen of Blades, for reals. It is Scarlett.
And in the top left, the Queen of... No, I'm kidding, Robbie. We're looking at the main base of the American Protoss hero. Of course, still representing Ting, it is Neeb.
All right. Well, Neeb managed to get out that nice and early probe scout yet again, doing the hatch block. You were talking about, I was surprised that Neeb was able to do it 2 games in a row. How about 3 games in a row, Kev?
I think most Protoss players would sign for it. Like, it brings me back to a series that I cast a long time ago between Drogo and Reyna, where Drogo was just doing this every single game. And every game that he got the hatch block off, he won. And the games where he didn't, he lost. And I was like, man, hatch blocking must be really good. And that's why we saw Zerg players at a certain point just take those expands a bit quicker. Now, if they send the probe out immediately, you need to take it even quicker as a Zerg player. But Lambo said he crunched the numbers, and it is very good if you go for, like, I think it's a 14 hatch, and then they do go for a Python, like basically one of their first probes to the other side of the map. If you get the hatchery down, it's actually very good for a Zerg. But if you don't get it down, then obviously it's very bad for a Zerg, because then you're floating a whole bunch of money, and your build doesn't make any sense anymore. So.
You know what I actually love about this, Kev, is that the timing for like a drone to be made or like a probe to be made or the cost of a hatchery, none of this has changed since like the beginning of Legacy of the Void, right? Like it started with 12 workers. All this stuff has actually technically been unchanged, but people are still just finding these new little ways to kind of push the meta forward. And it's like 5 years later. I actually love that about StarCraft.
Yeah, just because, like, normally you'd think, like, sacrificing one of my first 12 workers to go to the other side of the map is like, this is where I need the income the most, right? Like, that's almost 10% of my entire economy. But if you can get the block off and you can force the Zerg player to expand elsewhere, well, they're going to lose quite a bit of mining time as well by all the drones that are produced in the main base. You can see these Zerglings sneak in, indeed, and get a probe as well. That's not bad for Scarlett.
Yeah, especially considering last game, those similar timed Zerglings were coming forward. Oh, Neeb actually equalizes a little bit, gets a drone kill with the Adept. That's also not supposed to happen. And the Adept should start regenerating its shields, and he should be shading out soon, right?
Yeah, but that only happens, right? Because Neeb is able to get the hatch block off in the early game. Otherwise, your Adept is never going to get kills like that. So that's why, that's just one more reason besides the economic advantage that it's very nice to get the Zerg player to take their expand elsewhere. There's a little pocket there for the Adepts. And that's exactly what Neeb is going for. This is a really solid start because Neeb is not committed to these 2 Adepts at all. But look at the amount of damage they're finding. One more drone goes down. Can Neeb find that final kill? No, he cannot. But is he going to the main? Yes, he does. Wow, what a start for Neeb.
This is actually unbelievable. This might seem like light bits of damage, like 4 workers, maybe a 5th over here. Oh my god. Scarlett does manage to save that one, and the Adept still shades forward, finds another drone. Oh, okay. Nice save there from Scarlett. But guys, 4 workers at this stage is massive, and how much attention that took away for Scarlett. She finished one of the spore crawlers of the drones because she actually had like 5 spores being built at once. She's gonna finish another one, and Neeb did not open up. Well, and actually Neeb did open up with the Oracle, so I guess it'll still be useful.
Yeah, it's not too bad against the Oracle, right? It's heading towards the other side of the map, but Scarlett took a lot of economic damage there. It's not necessarily the amount of drones that went down, but all the drones were pulled from her Neo Natural as well. They were not mining. Multiple drones were forced to morph into a spore crawler. All of these things add up, and if Scarlett had any sort of a timing in mind, well, that timing just went out of the window because Neeb has done a great job in just disrupting her entire build work.
Yep, gets the Adept warping back at home in time for those links to not be too annoying or pestering with the Void Reels patrolling around. Hard for Scarlett to put on a whole lot of early counter-aggression. So she's just going to try and drone back up through all the damage she took. Adds on the Roach Horn, a very aggressive position. That's the Roach Horn that I'm like, Kev, I'm going to come back to that in like 4 or 5 minutes. And Neeb does a push and Scarlett loses her Roach Horn because it's literally out there further out from the 3rd.
You know, we were talking about the last time these 2 went up against each other. I was like, I remember there was something special about it, but I was like, I don't really know what it was. But now I do remember, because it was indeed on the Romanticide. And oh my goodness, more adept shading into the natural. This game is kind of a straight up disaster for Scarlett. And it just feels that everything that Neeb is attempting so far is working out. And obviously the Oracle is still alive. Do you remember this game they had in the winner bracket, I believe it was, where Neeb was basically dead, but then he had an army with 20 High Templars, and he's like, well, we're just going to run into the middle of 4 bases and storm everything. And Neeb somehow won that game, because it turns out if you never run out of storm, Protoss armies are pretty good against roaches and stuff. Now all of a sudden I remember. But that game was not looking anywhere near as pretty as this one is so far.
It's been a disaster is the best way to put it. You already said it. It's really, really going to be tough. And don't let the fact that Scarlett is now up in workers fool you guys. Scarlett is up in workers just because she is sitting on 5 lings right now. And Neeb is finally getting to that point where he's adding on charge, adding on a couple of his gateways, getting up a tempo archives. Like, Neeb is getting into his groove for a big 3-base push. And it's going to look really, really strong. Scarlett is going to go for the infestation pit yet again. She's adding on +1 missile attack, and I won't say it's over for Scarlett. She's taking a lot of damage, and she's in definitely a bad spot, but there are things she can do with the engagements that can bring her back in this.
Oh, absolutely. I'm totally with you. Like, games like this are never really over, because one bad fight against like 14 or 16 locusts, and all of a sudden your immortals melt, your archons melt, or they get on top of the High Templars, you have no storms. There's always comeback potential. But this is definitely not the start that Scarlett had in mind for Game 3. A very important game. One thing I want to mention, by the way, because we didn't do that yet, is that some people may have noticed that the prize money is the same for 2nd and 3rd place in NA. And that's not because we don't want to give them anything for making it into the grand finals, but making top 2 in NA gives you a guaranteed slot in the season finals. So that's obviously a very big deal, because then you have a chance to win more money. But just by qualifying for the season finals, you also get paid. So that's basically the bonus payment you get for making top 2 in NA.
Yeah, exactly. You literally get money for last place. If you get eliminated in the season finals first round, you're still getting a bit more prize money. So just getting to that grand final slot, 2nd place, is going to guarantee you a bit more. Glad you pointed it out. But here we go. I think we see Scarlett getting out the decent number of swarm hosts. She's up to 13. Neeb had an immaculate defense against this style in game number 1. And Kev, that was when Neeb was pretty much on even sides, right, with everything, right? This is going to be Neeb defending the swarm host with a massive economic advantage. But this position is a really, really nice spot for the swarm host locust.
Yeah, I bet Neeb wished that he would have mined it out already. It doesn't really take a lot of trips for the probes to mine those out. They only have 10 mineral patches. The 4th base actually feels like it's a little bit exposed at this point. Oracle, Neeb, please pay attention. As he does pay attention. Activate Spilzer Beam now, but Scarlett is going to get an easy pickoff on this Nexus in the end. And all of a sudden, it definitely feels that Scarlett is finding some momentum. But we also know that these Swarmers and Locusts, they want to do more than activate a barrier or drain a little bit of energy of a shield battery. They want to get on top of a Nexus. They want to start getting probes or pick off key units. So getting the Nexus, the 4th one, is good. But these units still need to do a bit more.
So Kev, here's one of the big questions I think a lot of people struggle with in figuring out how to deal with these swarmos plays. When do you move out? Neeb loses that 4th base, you start taking a bit of damage here and there. Do you just defend until you're basically at the max out point, have storm and everything, and then you move out? Or do you try to find an opportunity to move out a little earlier?
No, I think that Neeb is, since you invest that much in static defenses, your army is obviously going to be a bit smaller than it would have been otherwise. So I don't see any point in moving out if you just feel like you want to defend with cannons and batteries. So I think at this point, it's try to stabilize on 4 bases. We've got a big Zealot Warp in the main base. Those Warp Prisms are key in games like this. We've seen that time and time again throughout the entire season. You can already see this dealing quite a bit of damage. 7 drones going down, and even the Spore Crawler taking some damage.
Locust coming on out, and these Archons are just demolishing them with their extra damage versus biological. And then one Zealot still active, gonna actually find some of the drones that are popping on out, because Scarlett already did a bit of a retreat from most of the units. Finds one more drone, but even just taking some of the attention away from Scarlett for a bit.
I really wonder why Neeb is not mining out those minerals. Like, now I almost feel like it's on purpose, and he's like, no, I'm fine just defending on the other side, because I'm okay with just fighting locusts. I don't want to fight locusts and roaches and ravages at the same time, perhaps.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we saw what being slightly out of position can absolutely do to you. You lose a base in an instant if your army is a bit too far forward. But yeah, I feel like he has enough army on both sides. They should be able to deal with this. And Oh, another round of Locust coming forward. A nice set off of one of the stasis trap. There's another one further back behind the wall, and there's a hand. There should be one storm available at least. Got a storm over there because the Locust getting to the mineral line is not really a place you want to storm.
No, then you're gonna kill a lot of your own probes. Scarlett's gonna try to find some more damage with her Ravages, and Neeb doing a good job in keeping this army at bay as well. It's kind of funny because we went over this in the break, but Zealot Archon is technically really good against Roaches and Ravages, unless you're on creep and you're chasing. Because then the Zealots run away from the Archons and they kind of get picked off one by one. And Archons by themselves, all of a sudden they feel very clumsy and weak against Roaches. So I think Neeb is like, you know what? Let's just play it slow. Let's just get into carriers. +1 air weapons on the way. I'm perfectly fine where I'm at. 4 bases. I've got a whole bunch of storms. As long as he avoids those Russell balls. Loses High Templar and an Archon, but I still really like this game so far for Neeb.
Oh yeah, AoE damage being taken on both sides, and those corrosive vials have really been landing, but so have these storms, Kev. The Zealot Warpins in the main base look like they do get cleaned up, but that Warp Prism staying alive and still looking for opportunities to move in. Wouldn't actually hate if you just did a Zealot Warpin on that low ground base or something sometime.
I was thinking about it as well. You know what I also wouldn't hate? Instead of like going for the 6 Zealot Warping, why don't you warp in 2 Adepts? Yeah, or DTs. I know you love DTs, right? Wouldn't be bad, obviously. He needs a Darkstrike for that, but just 2 Adepts to kill 4 or 5 drones guaranteed before the Zerg player can really deal with those and he can still trade away. I think that would also be decent, but I don't think we really need to criticize Neeb for anything in this game because he is looking mighty fine. He's got a way better army once again, and I honestly think that he will weather the storm here without too many issues.
Yeah, to put this into context, guys, in that first game where Scarlett still couldn't handle that transition to the carriers and the High Templars and the Immortal count, Scarlett had a Hydroden started and it's like nearly finishing by the time the carriers started poking forward. This game, Scarlett starts 2 Spires after like the 4th, 5th, and 6th carriers are popping, basically. Yep. This is a later reaction in a Scarlett in a tougher position.
I mean, we do have the Hydras on the way as well, and even Lurker upgrades are getting ready to kick in, but there's only 3 Spore Crawlers, and I feel like more Spores is almost a necessity to buy time against all these carriers, because 10, 15 Hydras don't cut it against 6 or 7 carriers. You just need way more anti-air for that. Maybe the Corruptors can make the difference, but I'm just a bit worried about Scarlett, her gas income. So the base that he has right now with the Rich Vespian guys, I think is the most important one. Seems like Neeb has listened to your Fear Dragon, as we have a couple of Zealots being warped in on that low ground.
Yeah, not bad. Gonna be able to find a bit more damage. And like you said, that high yield gas base is gonna be pretty important for Scarlett and just getting that gas income up. And you can already see she is prioritizing it, mining directly from it. She adds on a bunch of those Corruptors. 9 Corruptors on the way, but Kev, I feel like this Skytoss army is here. It is ready.
Yeah, I think Neeb would be making a mistake if he doesn't kind of start pushing the issue. I think he's done a great job in just playing a passive game, weathering the storm, making sure he doesn't take any damage, relying on always static defenses. But this is kind of go time. You've got a super powerful army, +1 iron weapons is ready. You've got 6 carriers. There is anti-air on the side of Scarlett, but I think Scarlett's going to be forced to at least evacuate this base. And Neeb is like, you know what? Let's just go for that base with the Rich Vespian gas, because if you lose that one, you're going to have a hard time getting enough gas out.
Narrowly dodges a Corrosive Vial with that Warp Prism. Storm's being used actually on the Swarmos themselves, maybe anticipating that the Locust would be there. Oh, a lot of Locusts got used pretty early, and that's going to be pretty problematic. Here we go. Corruptors trying to dive in on top of the carriers, getting into a position where it'd be awkward to storm them, but Kev, even with 1 or 2 of the carriers going down, I think that the Archons, the Immortals on the ground, they're still going to be enough.
I actually feel that Neeb really should have used 1 Archon to help out against the Corruptors. Now the Archons are helping out a little bit. The carriers are low on HP, but they ain't falling. I think only 2 carriers went down so far, and even if the Prism did go down, Neeb can obviously warp in units at home. Now Scarlett did also expand at the top right, but that is now being found by a single very brave Zealot. All of this was just very good for Neeb as well.
Yeah, it looks like Neeb is going to actually end up backing off, though. And he is just on that 4-base economy for now, but he's adding on 3 more carriers. And Scarlett is going to add on a few more Corruptors. But her income, like you said, that gas income is severely halted. Yep.
And that's tough. Once again, Scarlett floating a bit of money. You don't want to be floating money, but there is just no better way to Yeah, all you can really do is maybe build drones and get spore crawlers. Scarlett's gonna try to get this base up and running one more time. Neeb doesn't see it yet. That's actually kind of funny. So close to spotting it, doesn't really see it.
Oh,
Maybe
High Templars.
Yeah.
Zealots don't leave the High Templars behind. Well, I guess go after the Nexus first anyway, so they're going to be able to survive for now. That is a hefty number of storms available, Kev.
Yeah, this is a very ambitious plan by these Corruptors, and I don't really recommend it, especially not near a...
cut off.
Yep. The army of Neeb as well in the center of the map. Scarlett's gonna have to be very careful here. Archons could even get a couple shots off. Interceptors get out. I honestly think for Neeb it's just go time now. You A-click, you move in, and you don't even care if they've got lurkers or whatever. Just go for it. Get those interceptors out, because this army right now cannot be stopped.
Yeah, plenty of storms where that came from, Kev. There are more High Templars here than there are Zealots at this point. And we end up seeing that this army for Scarlett is basically on run and retreat. If Neeb really wanted to play this safe, he could just go back up to the top right-hand side, knock out the last remaining base, but it's just going to be go time. Scarlett sitting inside of the storms of the Corruptors, Archons all being morphed in. Even if all of the carriers go down over here, Kev, which actually they might with how many Corruptors are still here, the Archons are going to decimate the count immediately afterwards, and then they just get to make the A move.
Yep, one carrier does survive as the Corruptors were super low on HP, but I think the supply kind of tells it all. Scarlett is now down to 122 supply, and there is a terrifying Archon Immortal army knocking on her front door. Neeb is also sending Zealot and still has an Oracle harassing drones apparently to the top right. I don't want to see Neeb turn around though, just keep going. Like, obviously Neeb pretty much has this game locked up, but there's absolutely no need to give any comeback potential to this Orc here.
Yeah. To put this into context, guys, Scarlett is down to her original 3 bases. I don't know where those drones think they're transferring, but they're transferring into all the Zealots. I guess the Roaches are hoping that they'll be able to knock those Zealots out in time, but yeah, this is if Neeb loses this game, I don't think he'll win game number 4, because I think any player would be tilted off the face of the earth if they lost from this position.
Yeah, Corruptors are going to go on a mission as the overcharge being activated on the shield battery. Neeb finds a couple of Hydras. There is simply no anti-air, and there's not really a ground army either. 8 Roaches is not going to do it. GG gets called. Neeb takes a very convincing game 3, I gotta say. I think Neeb looked very good in game 1 and just played solid and looked pretty bulletproof. This game, I feel like he looked even better. And I'm starting to really believe that it was a conscious decision to not mine out those minerals. But it's like, no. I'm okay with just fighting Locusts because I am ready for Locusts. I've got the stasis traps, I've got shield batteries, cannons, I've got units in position. Keep firing away, I'll deal with it, and at the same time, find some damage with Zealots on the other side of the map. Neeb looked really good there.
He really did. I do want to give some kudos to Scarlett, because even though she was basically down the entirety of that game, remember, she was down for the entirety of that game, and she still brought it to that stage where it was at the point where both players are like getting up carriers and the late game army of Corruptors and everything, and being able to survive to that point to give Neeb the run for his money and kind of say like, okay, you still got to be able to deal with this super duper late game situation. Don't mess up. That also takes a bit of skill to survive to that point after the horrendous, horrible start that Scarlett had.
Yep, we are definitely not exaggerating this. Like, we cannot emphasize enough on how important it is for a Zerg player to have a clean early game. You can lose a drone, you can lose 2 drones against an Oracle if you at least put some damage on it, but losing like 10 plus drones against random run-bys, then losing mining time because you're forced to pull the drones away all the time, spore crawlers finishing up where they perhaps shouldn't have finished up, all of those things add up. And like I said, if there was a timing, Swarmholes really rely on their first wave, the second wave. Now Neeb just bought himself like an extra minute to get ready for those waves, and then all of a sudden the build that is very powerful doesn't look very powerful.
Well, guys, that is going to put Neeb in a match point position here, where he's going to be sitting up 2-1 in this best of 5. Scarlett going to need to rally and bring this back home if she wants to be able to continue her run to the grand finals and lock down that season final spot. We're going to be starting over here at the top right-hand side of the map on top of said red Zerg player. Representing Team Bravestar, she is Scarlett.
And in the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the Protoss that's representing Ting, and leading the series 2-1, it is Neeb.
what is this? Four games in a row you get the block off? I mean, at this point, we just accept that Scarlett doesn't care about doing the earlier openings and stuff. But it's definitely, it's not like one of those situations where we're like, well, maybe she doesn't know about the meta. No, this is like standard Zerg knowledge that you can just go for the earlier hatch and everything. So it's just kind of interesting. Scarlett doesn't bother going for it.
No, exactly. And I think that Neeb is very happy with that. It's like, all right, if you don't care, then I'll just keep doing it because I like playing these kinds of games. It just exposes the drones way more to oracles, way more to adepts as well. And on top of that, obviously, it takes longer for the Zerg economy to really get rolling because every drone that comes from the main base, it doesn't just go down the ramp and start mining. It has to travel all the way towards the third. So you're really going to feel that for the first 4 or 5 minutes of a game.
Yeah. Neeb doing, I actually have to say, Neeb doing a nice job with his probe harass on the minerals. Scarlett also doing a good job. Like her drones are actually not bouncing around that much. It's a really small thing. I only even point it out because I feel like, you know, we're so used to just seeing it as commentators at this point. We watch so much StarCraft that it's like, we just ignore it. But then, you know what, Kev, there's a lot of new people who get into StarCraft these days. And maybe not everyone knows about it. So I feel like it's fun to bring up sometimes.
Yep, and it is indeed. Everything that you said on Death Aura, I agree. When you see a lot of other people try it, I've tried it for a bit. I was like, yeah, this is really cool. And then I've got my second button. I'm like, all right, never again. Like, I'll just accept that I have bigger fish to fry, and occupying a mineral patch for 2 seconds at a time is just not my thing. And that's okay. You know, I know my strengths and weaknesses, Robbie.
Yes, your strengths are when you get into this building right here, Kev. It's going to be that Stargate opening that Neeb is going to be going for yet again, but he has mixed up how he uses the Stargate, how he opens it up and follows things up. And his pylon block is actually going to be pretty annoying. Scarlett already up to 450 minerals before throwing down that hatchery.
Yep. Once again, the Zerglings are casually walking into the natural. I think if whenever you can get one probe here, it is kind of nice. Obviously, the most important thing here for Scarlett is seeing that Stargate. That's going to help. I'm sure that she's kind of expecting it at this point, but it's always nice to confirm this. Because before you know it, all of a sudden, it's not a Stargate, it's a Twilight, and Resonating Glaive show up, you know. You don't really want to find yourself in that position.
Especially, I think, since Neeb is pretty good with his Resonating Glaive attacks. I think he's won many a game, especially back in the day of his Reign of Terror in 2017, off of many adepts being made. So someone always to be on the lookout for against that. But it's going to be that Void Ray first. Never necessarily an indicator. He's not going to go into, you know, Phoenix or Oracles or something else behind this, but waiting for that supply block to end. It's going to be the Oracle.
What are my memes though, Robbie? Like, I feel like all of this is a bit standard so far. You know, Neeb has very solid build or there's nothing crazy. There's no cannons, no crazy proxies. It's way too normal over here. I thought we were in an 8.
Yeah. You know, I think it was Neeb that told me years and years ago, you know, Scarlett has 2 modes. She's either like, I need to play absolutely perfect mode, or she's in full-on memester mode. And it's looking like she's okay with just saying, this is the style that I need to play. This is like my approach to ZVP. I'll do it. And Neeb also not really feeling like he needs to go for cannon rushes or anything. It's just like, no, I'm winning. Why do I need to change?
Because even in that second game, the one that Neeb did lose, I feel like there was way more potential in his Zealot Archon attack. It's just, I think it was kind of poorly executed. And of course, Scarlett did a lot of things right defensively. As this Oracle flies in, finds himself 2 drones. Not all that bad. As long as you keep it alive, that's the most important thing. But yeah, I think Neeb has been just looking very good in the 2 games he won. And even the game he lost, I feel like he could have won. Scarlett, on the other hand, I just think her early games are not clean enough. It needs to be better, but this game so far seems pretty promising.
Yeah, Scarlett, I think one of her biggest advantages as a player is that she is not only just like, I think back in the day in 2012, you look at Scarlett and be like, she's so naturally talented mechanically, right? Her creep spread, her macro was so on point. These days, I think it is really apparent she is very talented strategically and really just understanding the game. So if there's someone I expect to be able to adapt, it would be Scarlett. She is losing a couple of workers over here, 4 workers for the 2 Oracles, keeping both of them alive. Not a bad start for Neeb.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious that Neeb was paying attention to the Oracles there, and Scarlett was paying attention to the Adepts, right? Because the Adepts were not really shooting at anything, and Scarlett was defending that flawlessly. But then at the same time, the Oracles perhaps found a bit too much, and that's obviously where Neeb looked good, but looked a little poor on the Adept control there. But overall, I'd still say a much cleaner start for Scarlett than the previous games.
That Adept is not a full wall cap. I just need to say it. I don't think Scarlett will try and do a run by, but I'm just gonna say it like because this is annoying me. That Adept is not properly walling right there.
Do you think so? I think it is actually.
No, I think so. Here's actually the thing. I've tested this many times now.
Yes.
When a unit attacks, the orientation. I don't know if it's because of the direction it turns or what.
Yes.
But when it attacks, it has a slightly smaller box of like what air ground that it covers. So the Lings would get through when the Adept attacked, I think. I'm almost positive.
I would almost think that the Adept would just turn around then and then start facing the Lings and would still block. Yeah, as long as it's on hold position, of course. But
Yeah. Well,
so
I don't think it's going to be an issue. So.
Where would you? Yeah, we don't have too many Zerglings out on the map, right? 4 Zerglings. It's like, oh no, the 4 Zergling run by. It's devastating.
She scouted the fact that I'm adding on gateways and going into a Templar archives. Oh no, like I've done every game. Hive Tech is going to be coming up pretty quickly over here for Scarlett as she's getting into her usual groove of things, Infestation Pit and everything, but she's not actually adding on any Swarm Hosts this game. It is just a super fast straight up tech up to the Hive, and it's going to be just Roach, Ravager, Hydra, a very old school composition to make this defense with.
Yeah, but I think it's okay though, because we saw that on Death Order, right? As long as these units walk around on creep, there's a lot of micro potential in the army of Scarlett, and Neeb, his Zealots are probably just going to store him off. So the force fields need to be spectacular. Do we have any Ravagers? Yes, we do have 3 of them. I feel like this attack could work if you have another Prism that flies into the main base, but we don't have that. And as a straight up attack, I don't really like it, and I think Neeb doesn't like it either, and that's why we see him going up to 4 bases and not commit.
Yeah, goes for a couple of the creep tumors since he feels like there's an opportunity to get those, but he is absolutely not going to try and commit too far in. Is Scarlett going to be able to get a nice little wraparound, though, from 2 different sides? A recall immediately. He is going to lose maybe a Zealot. Oh, Scarlett actually target fires down a sentry over there, so a nice snag. But the Warp Prism, I think, heading over toward the main base. I think Scarlett sees it, but she's not actually pulling back her army.
No, Scarlett actually still rallying units to the other side. Now, I think she noticed the Zealots in her main base. I don't think these Zealots will get too much done. Maybe a Queen and then like 1 drone if they truly want to go for it. So I think it's just going to be Lurkers coming out of Scarlett, and Nebus is going to head into Storm, Immortals, Archons, and probably additional Stargates as soon as he feels safe and he's got the 4 bases up and running.
Yeah, worth mentioning, just if he is going to be facing off against, yep, there's the double Lurker Dens being thrown down for the quick double upgrade research while on Hive Tech. But Neeb's Immortal count is not actually that impressive right now. He wasn't going really quick into heavy Immortal play. He was just getting that 1 Immortal and then adding on a lot of the fast Archons. So he's going to be in an interesting position where he's not going to have that many. Oh my god, the Stasis Trap's locking out this army. That's a 6 set of Stasis Traps.
Yeah, that's a very nice catch. The Roaches on the left side are kind of getting deflected by this Void Ray. So Neeb once again looking very good. I gotta say, I don't think I really like the double Lurker Den. Like, unless there is like a key timing that like comes down to 5 or 10 seconds, but it doesn't really make that much sense to me because Adaptive Talents doesn't really take that long. And this is such a big map. Like, do you really just want to run into the Protoss as soon as you have Lurkers and then try to win? It feels A, unnecessary, and B, I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, to add a little bit even to that is Lurker Dens in general just take a very long time to build also, Roddy. So it's like, you have to not only say like these 2 upgrades are going to finish at a key moment, you're saying that like 2.5 minutes before that key moment and saying like, I will absolutely be able to attack at the 2.5 minutes from now and actually be able to hit safely. Committing in, so it's a very difficult call to actually make that and have it pay off. So looks like Scarlett's gonna end up backing off with those Roaches, and you see that the Lurkers are finishing morphing in. Lurker Den upgrades are coming out, but Scarlett, besides the Roaches on the left, she's not really poached forward for a big attack.
Nope, and I mean her economy is kind of too big almost for that point as well, right? Like if you have 90 drones, do you really want to attack off creep, knowing that the best supply you can work with is 110? And then it's such a big map, it takes such a long time for reinforcements to show up as a couple of units get caught on the left side. I mean, Neeb is just, very casually heading into carriers now, and even though this has been a 10-minute game, not too many crazy things have happened. I'm very happy that Neeb didn't commit to his Zealot Archon attack on creep, because I don't think that would have worked. I guess we're just gearing up for a proper macro game, which once again, then I'm a bit surprised by the double Lurker Den, as Scarlett definitely had some gas issues so far in this series.
Yeah. All that being said, though, Kev, I do feel like this is, you know, we're saying there's like a cursed blessing of Neeb and Scarlett always getting at least one game that goes to like the 40-minute mark. I'm starting to feel like this might be closer to being that game, although a lot of lurkers going down over here is definitely not going to bode well for Scarlett once those first couple of carriers pop out.
Yep. I mean, Neeb doing fine without the carriers even. Just once again, relying on cannons, relying on batteries, and then just warping in a couple of units. How many gates do we have in a game like this? 11 gateways. Ooh, High Templars were a bit exposed there. Couldn't storm yet, but Neeb saves them, morphs into an Archon. Let's take a look at the units lost resource tab. Neeb has lost 5k resources, Scarlett's 7k so far. But obviously we didn't really see the massive fights yet, so perhaps it's not too telling. I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of like... Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, this map is big enough also that I feel like difference of some of the other maps is that it feels like Neeb is able to get in on top of 1 or 2 of those bases and pull back safely to help defend against a counterattack and everything. This map, it's a lot harder. It's like once Neeb commits across the map with those carriers, he's committed. So kind of feel like Scarlett might have a little more time to work with.
Yep, Scarlett is really trying to make the multi-prong attack work. You can see armies moving around in the bottom right side as well. Neeb just wants to fight his lurker army, as he probably feels there's not enough anti-air here. It's the second attack, getting a little more done than before. Do we have an observer here for Neeb? Yes, we do, actually, on top of the army. Don't kill your own observer with Storm!
Oh,
but
yeah. Luckily, all the lurkers are dead now, so not going to be too big of an issue for a little bit, but 16 corruptors now going to be added on over here for Scarlett, who really just has hydras and lurkers out. That's basically her entire army. So now with the corruptors being added on, we'll finally be able to kill this warp prism, which I think Neeb finally found the hotkey for. He's like, wait a second. Is this still here from the 8-minute mark?
Lurk is going to help out defend against these zealots, but you're right. I think the corruptors should be able to take care of it. Neeb is using this moment, though, to make some good progress in the center of the map, pick up a lot of the creep tumors, and immediately get 1 or 2 of the corruptors as well. Take a look at the air upgrade. We don't really have any armor upgrades right for the corruptors. Only +1 attack. This is actually a terrifying timing, and I think Scarlett is in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, she's losing a bunch of drones on the top left. She's losing this hatchery over here at the same time that the fight might be breaking out. So the corruptors are going to have to try and dive on in, but the Archons and those storms really softening up quite a few of the corruptors. Storming on top of this army for Neeb. Okay with storming his own units because he feels like as long as I win this fight, even if 1 or 2 of the carriers survive, that's fine because that's going to be the added in DPS he needs to break through. Neeb takes a supply lead, and that's on top of sniping off the right-hand base and killing a lot of drones on the top left.
Yep, and keeping the War Prism alive, so this push doesn't even have to stop here. I really love how the tail end of that entire fight, Neeb, his Immortals were able to get a couple of great shots off on those lurkers that were a bit exposed as well. And this was a fantastic attack by Neeb, who has now taken the worker advantage lead. Scarlett does still have this base on the left side. And if we get better upgrades on the corruptors, anything is possible. But Neeb recalled, and for a second he was moving out. I actually think Neeb should just keep going. And he definitely shouldn't make a mothership, but we don't have to talk about that kid. Right?
We'll see, Kev. A Warp Prism is finally going to get found by the corruptors, but not before a handful of zealots get warped in, denying some mining in the main base. Scarlett still has some gas left to mine from that. And she is also getting hit with some zealots on the left-hand side. But Neeb just finding so many places for these zealot run-bys to get damage done. My God, I really am with you on something you said earlier, Kev. I'd love to have seen just a few more static defenses come down with that big mineral bank Scarlett's had in these games.
Yep. Now Dark Templars are going to start showing up. It's actually kind of funny. We've got a lurker wall on the top left, making it really hard for those DPs to enter. But in the end, they do make their way through. Now the lurkers just kind of ignore them. Neeb does find the freshest base that Scarlett has on the left side. This one goes down as well. It's looking very dire for Scarlett at this point.
Yeah, that I don't even want to look at the mineral or the income graph just yet, Kev. I want to look at the income graph in like 30 to 45 seconds, because that's when there's going to be this insane dip down in Scarlett's income and her ability to replenish the units she really desperately needs to be able to replenish.
Yep. I really love the way that Neeb has played, though, in this best of 5. Obviously giving me some stats vibes, you know, where it's just like, don't make too many units, make a lot of static defenses, and then just kind of try to hang in there, try to go up to 4 bases as quickly as possible, and just make your army more and more powerful. These carrier timings attacks have been absolutely fantastic. I like how he goes into Void Race after that as well, knowing that the Corrupted count is going to be very high at that point. The Voids are going to have a much better time against that army than perhaps Carriers do if they're not that far ahead in upgrades anymore. But yeah, I don't know what Scarlett can do at this point. Do we have any Vipers for the Dragon? No, 2, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, 2 Vipers. They are sitting at full energy, so we'll see if it's gonna be -400, -400 for Neeb. The Lurkers and Hydras are poached around. What's the Hydra count even at right now, Kev?
8.
It looks okay. 8 Hydras, 16 Corruptors.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's 9 Voideries, Kev. I'm not sure that Scarlett actually wins that fight.
I mean, it will be close, but then obviously we have to add Storm into the equation as well. Yeah. Maybe the only hope for Scarlett is that she does still have 14 Lurkers. And since Neeb does still have a pretty powerful ground army, he definitely just doesn't want to lose it. He's not ready to go, okay, full air, no ground at all. So it's kind of difficult to attack into 14 Lurkers. So maybe Scarlett can just drag this game out. And, well, the better those air upgrades get on the Corruptors and the more static defenses we will get down the line, the more I will believe in a Zerg comeback here.
Yeah, Neeb also going to be just kind of chilling in that bottom left-hand side toward that base. So he's not exactly pushed forward in a more aggressive position. Unless he wants to actually take that army and go just straight north. He could hit the top left-hand base, but the newest base for Scarlett is kind of safer just by the fact that Neeb's army is kind of slow. It takes some time to move out. So Scarlett knows that she is safe to mine for a bit. She's hit that max out point. It is still something Scarlett can try and pull herself back from. But okay, the Spore Forest is coming down. I think that is going to be one of the key things she's going to need to try and make this engagement work.
Now, I love what Scarlett is doing now. I think she's making all the correct choices. I really felt that Neeb didn't even have to recall, right? And if he did recall, then he needed to just like reorganize and keep fighting. I feel that Neeb has slowed this game down after winning what I would think was a game-deciding fight for almost no reason. And now all of a sudden, Neeb is really going to have to work for it again. The Vipers are looking for an underdog, but great feedback on the first Viper that comes close.
Yeah, nicely done. I think the Vipers, maybe the Overseers weren't close enough, so they couldn't even go for any abducts there, but that Mothership maybe allowing that cloak to find a little bit of value, Kev.
So many cannons and batteries going up. Neeb already has 31 cannons and 9 batteries, and now he's building 8 more batteries. So we're about to get almost 50 buildings of static defenses.
And they're all in the accelerator zones, Kev. I love it. If only they attacked faster. Wouldn't that have been great? Yeah.
Or heal faster.
oh man, Kev, don't let me dream of that.
It's almost like we could
stick all in if I could.
It's almost like we could maybe overcharge. Neeb is getting
what is that upgrade?
The Tempest one. 60,
oh my god, yeah.
40 or 60 bonus damage. 40, I believe it is, against buildings. Makes them shoot beautiful orange balls. It's lovely.
Yeah. And for those wondering why Neeb is sacrificing all these probes, he is trying to max out on a larger army supply because he feels pretty comfortable with the economy he already has. Doesn't necessarily need, you know, like 80-some workers. He'd rather have a larger army to make sure that the actual straight-up engagement goes his way. Doesn't have to worry about other things. But, you know, what's kind of funny is I do feel like Scarlett is getting a lot of this, like, bottom right-hand side of the map. She's taken another base over there. I would love if Neeb had just even a few zealots on that right-hand side ready to threaten any additional bases while the main army's up here on the top left.
Yeah, I guess it sucks that we're capped at 200, right? It's like, yeah, come on, 220 one time. All I want is 10 zealots. They'll die eventually anyway.
Well, Zergs can do it.
Yeah, exactly. You remember in the old days when there was somebody just like, oh my god, D-Maga had 219 supply.
But an effective use. Okay, well, High Templars are going to be able to survive and taking out a couple of these Lurkers threatening an attack. I love that Neeb, even as he has his entire army up in the top left-hand side, he's actually ready on the bottom right for any of the attacks that Scarlett could be throwing out. Not just with static defense, but even just got a couple of those High Templars and Archons over there.
I mean, both players actually making a couple of cool moves here. I like how Scarlett was keeping her Vipers and Corruptors away from the Spore Crawlers and the Lurkers, knowing that that's where Revelation was going to get dropped. And Scarlett is clearly hoping to get a good abduct. This time, Neeb does find a couple of the Vipers, and it's going to be very hard for them to get in range and land those abducts that Scarlett is clearly looking for.
Yeah, look at those Fireball Tempests knocking out those Spore Crawlers so quickly. The High Templars there to protect the Tempest as well. Double feedback immediately. There's still a few Vipers with energy, but The Spore Forest is getting burnt down, Kev, and I think that Scarlett is hoping that on the bottom side she's going to be able to make more happen here. Remember, there's those 2 Archons, 3 High Templars with a lot of Storms available. Oh, the Lings don't actually have too much to worry about getting into the main base, though.
Yeah, but they need to take care of a cannon and a battery first, and they're not very successful in that. They're still trying. It's like, eventually we'll get this cannon. It's a pretty epic battle happening in the natural. These lurkers are annoying, but they will get picked up as well. Doesn't really feel like these attacks are getting much done. Scarlett is probably hoping just to land a couple of good abducts, but Neeb is really on point with the feedbacks, just making it so hard for these Vipers to get in range.
Yeah, I really have to stress, guys, it is not easy to control this army for either side, and Neeb is doing an excellent job just zoning out these Vipers with the High Templar while making sure he's not taking damage from these lurkers, using the Tempest. It's a lot going on for both these players, but Neeb really just seems like he is edging Scarlett away from that base. He's going to be able to deny a good bit of mining with that.
And I gotta say, his mothership positioning is excellent. Like, we often meme about how easy it is to abduct that thing, but Neeb is doing a very good job in often cloaking his High Templars and keeping the mothership safe. And then obviously having all these Tempests as well makes it so hard for the Vipers to get in range and lands the abduct. I do think it's worth mentioning that I think we got into this situation while Neeb was already ahead, so kind of just playing from an advantageous position, but he's definitely not making any slip-ups.
Yeah. The cannon forest with the shield batteries there to back it up is going to make it very difficult for Scarlett to go for these counterattacks. Might be able to kind of make an awkward choke point for Neeb to move through, but remember, most of his army is in the air, and he's going to be able to use these Tempests. Okay, he's actually going to... He recalls most of the units. One High Templar left. Oh, there's the double recall. He recalls to the mothership.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice feature of the mothership, of course. You can always bring the units that you left behind still home just a little bit later. Neeb just killed a whole bunch and the armies never fought. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's actually a really, really sick set of trades there. Scarlett, I think, being very patient about it, and I mean, I think you kind of have to be in this point. I don't really know when there was a moment Scarlett could have just moved in, pounced on the army or anything, but she's been very, very patient about just saying, okay, I'm not going to take a game-losing fight just because I'm going to lose 1 or 2 of my bases here. I'm really going to make sure that I am taking a fight because I know I can win it.
I like this as well by Neeb. He knows that the majority of the army of Scarlett was on the top left side, so he immediately dives on a couple of spore crawlers, takes those out as well. We still have 17 spores, and I guess most of them are here. But Scarlett knows that she cannot afford to lose that base, because that's pretty much the only mining base right now. Scarlett is technically a one-base zone.
1 cannon in a dream. Okay, well, High Templar is going to help out now.
Feels like the optimal play there would be to kill the pilot.
Well, I mean, Kev, that's a really sad pylon. There's 1 pylon powering like, I think, what, 12 shield batteries or something? No, not 12, but... Aye. All right, Scarlett is really struggling because I think she's trying so hard to find another angle to come in and do some counterattacks with, pull Neeb back. But Neeb's bank is also just continuing to build on up. Even if Neeb ends up getting a few units abducted here and there, he actually just looks like he has enough to defend everything. He has so many High Templars around the map right now, too.
Yeah, we have 12 High Templars on the map, only a single Viper. I do actually think that if they fight, like the Corruptors of Scarlett will be able to kill all the air units. The thing is, Neeb is going to have a much easier time replacing this entire army than Scarlett does. Neeb is going to try to land a couple of storms, spots the lurkers as well. I feel like it's almost go time for Scarlett now. Like, she can't afford to lose this base.
I feel like it's getting to the point where it's even more so than just losing this base. She's actually losing a handful of units here and there. And I actually think Scarlett needs to take this base that Neeb just took. I actually think she needs to gain some ground.
I mean, there's obviously still some resources to be mined on the top left, but really not that many. Neeb is basically taking 1 more base than Scarlett could ever take in this base or on this map. And then on top of that, I feel like Neeb is sitting on the bigger bank, has the better army, too many spellcasters. Scarlett only has 1 Viper. How do you win a fight with only 1 Viper?
Oh, this might be the go time here. Oh, the stasis trap catching even more of these lurkers. Scarlett really doesn't want to fight with, you know, a decent amount of supply trapped in those stasis traps right now. Even if it is just a handful of lurkers, every little bit is going to make a difference. But the longer she waits, more of these shield batteries are going to finish up right on top of those accelerator zones, which ironically actually make it a lot easier for Neeb to also retreat.
believe that was the last Viper that just went down. Scarlett has 51 Corruptors. I mean, that's awesome. And like I said, I think Scarlett will be able to kill all the air units that Neeb has, as Neeb kind of storms his own Tempest. I guess that happens to the best of us. I don't see how Scarlett actually wins this game. Neeb has the entire map, 1 million cannons and batteries, High Templars everywhere, like you said as well. Like, how does Scarlett win this?
The other thing that we aren't even mentioning, Kev, is that Neeb even has the production to replenish. He's got 6 Stargates. If he loses any of these units, if they're somehow these Corruptors just massacre the army and he loses the ground fight because, I don't know, he storms his own observer, Neeb actually just replenishes 6 carriers at a time and warps in 11, ground units and adds on units from the Robo for Immortals. Like, Neeb can replenish his army before Scarlett can get across the map.
I really think you can see that the High Templar buff that came with the last patch has a very positive impact for Protoss players on these kinds of scenarios, because Neeb has killed 5 Vipers and the mothership didn't get abducted once. I didn't even see any Tempests really being abducted and killed. Neeb has been in total control of this game, and a while ago Neeb lost 2,000 resources less, then it was 7,000. At this point Scarlett has lost 18,000 resources more than Neeb did in this game, and we still didn't even really fight.
The income is actually down to 0 gas per minute right now for Scarlett. She's barely just mining the minerals of that one base we got a shot of. Revelations have been tagged on all of these Corruptors, so here we go. Corruptors coming on in. This is the do or die moment over here for Scarlett. She runs forward, but the time warp's also coming down. That actually slows down the Corruptors trying to dive in on top of this army and slows down their attack. The ground forces for Neeb win out, even if the air army over here for Scarlett wins out. It's not gonna matter.
I mean, we still have a couple of Archons as well that are trying to get the 6 shots off. In the end, Scarlett does kind of pick off the majority of the Void Rays. The last few Tempests go down as well, but what's left besides these 19 Corruptors? 2 Zerglings and 1 Lurker? Well, that's probably not gonna do it, Fear Dragon.
Look at all these oracles dancing around. Yeah, you go for the caustic spray over here. The Archon, a single Archon, is going to be able to deny these Corruptors from making their way further forward. And Neeb is at the point where he might actually start, just running in with a few Zealots on the top left-hand side, producing out of 6 Stargates at once. Like, this is the point where Scarlett can't really replenish her army anymore.
Well, Scarlett has 177 gas left in the bank. That's it. I think there is a little bit of gas left to be mined on the top left, but that's like 400 on both Vespian Geysers, and all the other ones has run out. So the base on the right side was super important, as there was still 1,800 gas to be mined there. Scarlett is pretty much stuck on what she has right now, and then maybe we can get a few more Spore Crawlers, but they haven't really made a difference either. I mean, the Tempest, the High Templar buff, has really made late game, I think, a lot more playable for Protoss, and we've seen everything of that in this game.
Yeah, gonna be able to find a handful of the Tempests that are a bit further off on their own, but all the Lurkers go down. Scarlett can't move further to the left because there's a shield battery cannon wall over there. Neeb, already sitting up 2-1, is on the verge of making another Grand Finals appearance. Scarlett may have gotten the better end of things last season, but Neeb looks like he's ready to lock it down.
Yep, and that means we get a rematch as well between Neeb and Australia. Yesterday, the best of 5. It didn't really satisfy me, let's just put it like that. I had high hopes because I love it when those two go up against each other. Yesterday wasn't the greatest series. I'm sure that Australia really enjoyed it though, but as us neutral spectators, we always hope for a little more fireworks and back and forth. I'm pretty sure that a much better Neeb will show up today.
I definitely hope so, Kev. And I'm okay with the game ending now. I was waiting. I was like, Scarlett, hang in there. 30 minutes. All right, my prediction came true. We got a 30-minute game out of these two. Yeah. I think these are the last drones the Scarlett has, question mark?
I mean, the base goes down on the top left. The Corruptors try to fight the carriers one more time, but it didn't make